All right. Going to be talking about podcast stats, data, Apple and their new Connect system. Today, just the importance of knowing your stats and be able to utilize that data as you are going about your shows. First, thanks to Eric Goranson for suggesting this topic. So I appreciate it. Eric, if you're listening, let me know. I'd love to even bring you on here and just chat about, Apple Podcast Connect together stats, hear your opinion as well, since you brought it up. But if not, hey, no worries. So Eric, he's the host, one of the hosts for Around the House podcast. It's a home improvement podcast. I actually listened to it when I listened to it. A really well done, knowledgeable. Him and Caroline are knowledgeable, very knowledgeable about the topics they talk about. And I do a lot of home improvement DIY stuff, maybe not to their level, but yeah, just a really cool podcast. So if you're looking for home improvement, Around the House podcast with Eric and Caroline, great show to check out. So again, and Eric is the one who asked about this topic and about, data and podcast, or Apple Podcast Connect, which is a new feature Apple has rolled out, along with now on Apple, no longer talking about go subscribe. You got to go follow now on Apple. So that's another change, but it's a really good, if you haven't checked it out, Apple Podcast Connect. Just more in depth with your stats, with tracking, more more direct, I guess you could say. And they're trying to get it where, the fake downloads or like bots and things like that are kind of flushed out. And so I think it's a really good step in the right direction to really help people understand who's actually listening to their show, where they're listening, how long they're listening for. So I like it. I think it's a neat perspective and a neat tool just to add to our data analysis as podcasters. And overall, I mean, so I personally, and I'm with Buzzsprout, they have a really good data, stats back office there. You can go look at your stats, and it's pretty good. It's pretty detailed. It gives you a lot to look at as far as stats, downloads, and things of that nature with your show. Now, I'm not 100%. Is there a way we can see comprehensive stats? So that's what. So on Buzzsprout, I actually can see comprehensive. So I can see percentages based on each of those directories, and gives me percentage. So I know like Apple's my top, but Spotify is my next one, and then Pandora comes, and so it actually breaks it down for Buzzsprout. I can't speak to all the other platforms because they're all different, but I love Buzzsprout because of that, because it does break down my stats, location, cities, where around the world it's listened to, devices, whether it's be a phone or on a computer, desktop, something of that nature. But wherever you can, if you can get good stats, I mean, you can go to listennotes.com to get good stats on kind of globally listened to percentages, things like that. Chartable's another one you can look into to see if you rank on any charts and which ones. And they seem to be fairly good. We're always going to have some issues. Nothing's perfect, but yeah, I think the Apple Podcast Connect opens up a little bit more for those who really like the logistics, who really like the data analysis of the show. Collecting data is important. It's good to know where you stand, where you're at with your show, and who's listening and for how long. But from my perspective, for what I do and what I help others do, that's not necessarily something we need to focus on so often. I think people stare at those stats, and they can get discouraged. They can get deflated because, if they're checking it every week, every other week even, we're like, well, hey, I'm doing all this stuff, but I'm not seeing the results. And so I think it's good to know where you're at and set a periodic time, whether it be once a quarter, to go back and see, okay, how are we doing? And if you're doing the right things, you should be positive growth. And so I think stats are good. Stats and data, the collection of that, because you want to understand and be able to better target those who are actually listening and creating that. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for asking. If that's Eric, it doesn't show your name, but you're welcome. Yeah, it's just, so you want to know where you're at. It's kind of like when if you've ever climbed a mountain or hiked up hiked up a peak or anything like that, you want to know where you're going. Okay. You want to know the ultimate goal, but you got to focus on the steps to get there. But if we're staring too much at the peak, at that data, at that collection of downloads, we could get tripped up because we're not watching what we're doing. So we want to kind of see where we're at. Aaron, awesome, cool. Within the Game podcast, Aaron Wexler, thanks for tuning in, man. You guys check out Within the Game if you haven't yet as well. So yeah, you want to know where you're at. You want to know who's listening, where they're listening from, even how long they're listening for. And then you can critique your show, but make sure you're not dwelling on those stats, that data for too long, too often. So get a bearing and then start taking the steps to, get closer to that peak, that next kind of marker, whether it be, hey, I want to get this X number of downloads or, this percentage of listen time, this many reviews, whatever it is. So you know where you're going, you know where you're at, and then what steps it takes to get there. So again, I think data and the stats, it's part of the journey, right? We've got to know if we're just kind of going out and not looking at them at all, which is fine if it's just a hobby for you. But if you have something bigger in mind if you want to reach more people, if you want to, like Pencil Leadership, if you want to leave that positive mark on the world, you kind of got to know, hey, is this tracking? Is this resonating with the people I'm trying to help? And so it's good to know the stats and the data and utilize these tools that they're now, improving as we go. Thank you, Eric. And again, Eric, make sure everybody check out his show, Around the House. So this Eric asked for this topic, and I hope I'm doing a little bit of justice, but Around the House with Eric and his co-host Caroline, a great home improvement podcast to listen into. Checked it out yesterday and listened to a couple episodes. So, but yeah, guys, so don't dwell on the stats. Again, I can't say it enough. I see so many people get so discouraged. They're like, well, I only gained 5 listeners today or this week or this month. I only gained 10 people. And that's still something, think about the people that you're impacting with your show, those 10 people, those 5 people. Hey, Benitha, I hope I said that right. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. But yeah, so know where you're at with your stats, then set a goal and then reverse engineer that along your podcasting journey. How can I get there? It's just like a business. You're here, you're bringing in this revenue, maybe nothing, and you want to get to this. And so that's, again, what we show. We reverse engineer that. Hey, you're making, $100 a month. You want to get to 2 or 5K a month. Okay. These are the steps. These are the big stones to cross that stream. These are what you're going to have to do. And then we break it down even more into that. So you've got to know the data and stats and understand that and use them, but we can't focus on them. We can't can continue. Same with social media. Hey, I got 2 new followers. I only got 2 new followers today. If we're focused on the follower count and not the content we're putting out, our growth is going to be slower because we're focused on the number instead of, hey, is this content what they want? Is this resonating with the people I have and the type of people I want to bring to my page? So if instead of focusing on just the content part, we're focusing too much on the result, which is, again, kind of inwardly focused. Okay. We're focused on our downloads, our followers, instead of, hey, is this content what they want? Am I giving enough to my audience, my following? So that's just a little bit on, on the stats, on podcasting, metrics, things like that. Again, some people put a big weight with this, and, just from what I do and how I help people, that's just something we don't focus on 100%, because you don't have to have a whole huge following or huge audience to monetize well. Okay. And here's a question. Revenue questions. Perfect. How do we get from $0 to $100 per month in revenue? How would you recommend Patreon, or would you recommend Patreon to get started? Yeah, it's a great question. And it's hard to, give an overarching answer for everyone because it depends on who you're talking to, what your audience is, and then what they want. Does your audience actually want a Patreon? Is that something that they're going to find value? If not, then, it's probably not going to work real well for you. So that's why, again, it goes back to who's your audience and what do they want? Again, listening to those that we're trying to help and trying to, impact. So what do they really want? And once you get that, $100, I mean, honestly, $100, it would not be difficult. Once you know your audience and what they want, it might seem too good to be true, but it comes down to that. So, great question. Patreon, it's a good system to start. If you have a good, strong following, even if it's not big, you could still get a little bit from that. But again, know your audience, know what they want, and then be able to provide something that they're asking for or the thing that will help them. Benitha says, don't focus on the number, but the content and impact you are making. Yeah, for sure. The numbers will come. We do the right thing. If we do the right thing that people want, if we're trying to be helpful, if we're trying to give, I truly believe that then you can receive. So give all you can in the way that your audience wants, and then they'll kind of direct you into like, hey, we want this. And that kind of opens up the door for a lot of things. Let's see. I've been building my audience for a year plus, have 34 episodes published, and my strategy to monetize is to push my book once it's ready. Thoughts on steps to book launch. This is great. Absolutely. So you're focusing on building your audience, which is great. 34 episodes is good. That's really good. You passed the PodFay mark, so keep with it. I think the steps to a book launch really is the audience you've created. You've got to get them excited for it to come out. So you've got to set a date, like when it's going to launch, and push that, and get your email marketing going, get your social media marketing going. So get that, so people get excited. They know it's coming, and then once it's time to launch, go hard at it. Get it out there. Make sure you've already built relationships with people. Maybe build a wait list. Excuse me. Build a wait list for those who are really interested, and maybe they get a discount for being on the wait list. You could do that, but it's really kind of getting in front of people, getting them excited, getting the word out there, and then once it is launched, I would go whatever that book's about. I would do a podcast run, get on a bunch of shows that have an audience that is looking for that kind of topic. If it's a mental health book, so get on a bunch of podcasts that their audience are geared towards people wanting to improve their mental health, and talk about your book, talk about the topics within your book, and then, offer the discounted price to that audience through like a landing page. So good question. I think you're on the right track for sure, building an audience and just get them excited about the book. Eric had a comment about Apple Podcast Connect. Valuable stat. What is it? Average consumption benchmark? Yeah. That's a great point, Eric. If we're losing listeners by talking too much. So seeing kind of how long they listen to the show, and correct me, Eric, if I'm wrong, if that's not what it means exactly, but what from my understanding is it shows you how long people are listening to your show, how far through the show they're getting. So, like, okay, maybe the average listener is only listening to 20 minutes and your episodes are 40. So maybe it's like, okay, can we condense this to shorter episodes? That way they're going to listen to all the way through. And then we can like put the call to action at the end and everything. Eric says you want that number over 80%. Absolutely. That's huge. Utilize that stat, the average consumption. Okay. And that's on Apple Podcast Connect. Again, that's just going to show you how long through they're listening to your show. And then you can tweak, and you can, so if you look in the averages, they're listening to the first 5 minutes and that 5 minutes is just your intro, hey, well, maybe we need to shorten the intro, shorten the intro a little bit and get them to listen to longer during the episode. So definitely utilize those. Those are good things to come back to, because then you can tweak and then again, do it for a little bit so you can collect some data, get enough data from that and come back again. That's why maybe every quarter. Okay, hey, they're listening to more of the episode now. Awesome. We're at the 75, 80% now. Great. Okay, so that tweak helped. Or maybe, hey, that didn't work. So maybe we need to have some more hooks at the beginning, or maybe something to keep them listening in the middle to get that percentage higher. So yes, great point, Eric. Absolutely. So it's all about utilizing it and then going and implementing changes. Or if you're at the numbers you want, keep it going. Don't chase any shiny object. Just stick to what's working. Because sometimes that can be a hindrance too. If we don't know we're doing well, we think we are, but then we're like, oh, they're doing that. Or, oh, I heard that. That's cool. Maybe I implemented mine and people will like it. But they already like what you're doing and you implement something new and they don't like that. And then your numbers start going down. You're like, well, what the heck? So it can work both ways for sure. Cool. Any other questions in regards to data, stats, anything like that? Again, Eric, great topic suggestion. While I'm waiting, if any of you are not in the Zero Podcast Hero community, it's a group on Facebook, free to join. If you're listening to this, go ahead and join the Zero Podcast Hero. It's just free value. We try to add in there. We do things like this. Take your suggestions on topics, network, things like that in there. So the Zero to Podcast Hero, you're on Monetize Your Podcast Facebook group. Great stuff today. Thanks so much, Aaron. No problem, man. I'm glad you can find some value in this, and I look forward to keep having these come out. And be able to just give value to y'all listening in. So podcasting, just like anything, can have those moments where like, is this worth it? Am I making a difference? Am I doing something good? And so just keep it up. Remember why you're doing your show. What's the ultimate reason? Because if you get into it just to make money, most people, it's going to take too long for them to do that in their mind. And so they're going to, hey, whatever. It was cool. It was fun while it lasted. So another question, what's the ideal length of a show? Again, this is one reason it's good to know your metrics, especially that average consumption. It really depends on your audience. And I know I sound like a broken record, but it's true. Some audiences, Joe Rogan's audiences, they like the hour, 2 hour shows, just because of how, it's a whole different ballgame when you're Joe Rogan and you have the team and you have the setup to do all that kind of production. But then there are some people that just want these short, quick snippets. Like, think if your audience are busy stay-at-home moms, they're not going to have an hour or 2 hours to possibly listen fully intently because, they got crying babies and they got cleaning and they got, all this stuff to do. So maybe that audience wants some short, hey, I can do this while the baby naps for a little bit, or while I'm feeding. So it all is dependent on your audience, and you've got to listen to them. You've got to ask questions, get connected with them. That's why it's important to build that community on social media. So then you can go in, find those listeners and say, hey, I appreciate you so much listening into my show, interacting on social media. Is there any way that I could make the show better for you? Do you like the length? And just have these conversations and get their feedback. Good question though. Should I poll my audience on Facebook to find out about it? Yeah, you can absolutely utilize polls. If you have a group for your show or a bunch of your listeners or your Facebook friends, yeah, throw a poll out there and get their advice and let them kind of guide you in that way. That's a big one you can do for sure. But yeah, if you do have Apple Podcast Connect, you can look at that average consumption. That's a good one that Eric mentioned, and just see how long do they listen. If the majority are listening to, again, a certain length, maybe that's what you need to cut it to. Or great questions. Any other questions? All right. Well, it's been good, guys. I look forward to just hearing how you continue to grow with your shows. If you need anything, the DMs are open. Reach out, send me a message. Always open to talking and answering questions. And if you're ready to take that next step, if you're ready to seriously grow and you're really thinking about monetizing, let's chat. Let's set up a call and build that plan out for you. So what that looks like to monetize your show, more than $100, okay, a month. We want to get you past that for sure. So if you're ready, if you're serious about, monetizing your show, so you can then put back into the show and grow it even more to make a bigger impact, reach out. Let's get that started, build that process out for you and what that looks like, get that plan in place, and then work through that together. So shoot me a message. Oh, we got another question. Perfect. What's the future of podcasting? I wish I was a fortune teller, but I think the future of podcasting is big. I think we're still in infancy. I still think we're young as far as podcasting goes. I think there's a lot that's going to open up because of podcasting. Sponsorships, more people are looking into podcasts for sponsorships. As you get to certain levels, the shows that are doing really big audiences. So you have that. It's an easy, free marketing tool. So you can get on other shows and share what you have, what you offer for free. So podcasting is here to stay, and it's going to continue to grow in the future. And a lot more businesses are getting into it. Which is cool to see, just adding more value to their audience. But it's here to stay. I think you're gonna see more people kind of lean to that, like the virtual or the video podcasting a little bit. That's kind of like what I do here. And then what my episodes, I do all the video as well, just for content, just so I can have video to share, clips to share. But yeah, I think the future of podcasting is big. And for those who stick with it and have a plan and don't stare at the data, but utilize it here and then. So good question. Cool. All right. Well, hey, it's been good, everybody. Again, reach out if you're ready, because it's not gonna be easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. You're gonna have to put work to it. But if you're ready and wanna continue to grow and make a difference with your podcast, but also, have some revenue come in through it, reach out. Let's get that plan created for you and then help you work your way through that. So just send me a message. Just say, hey, I'm ready to monetize or whatever it is. And we'll start having that conversation. Okay. All right, guys, keep doing awesome things. Keep going out there, growing your podcast and making a difference. And until next time, all right, we'll talk.